Hi there. In today's video, we'll be picking up the baton and we'll continue from where we left off in the previous video. We're talking about creative writing as a viable tool for mass communication, and today pick up where we left off. So in the last video, we're talking about textual form of communication, otherwise known as literature, and English literature is divided into three broad genres, as many people know, and they are drama, poetry, and prose. Here's the charts showing the relationship between the three genres and literature itself. So the very first one of them, drama, according to Wikipedia, is stories composed in verse or prose, usually for theatrical performance, where conflicts and emotion are expressed through dialogue and action. Yes, while drama is mostly to be enacted on a stage or to be enacted in your mind, where you create characters and exchange the conversations, exchange the dialogue in your mind, or they play them in your mind. Drama is usually that way in acts and scenes where you see different characters, the dramatis personae, the cast, and whatever, everything that has to do with the drama. But then a drama can also be in form of a prose, where you don't have to segment it like this person says this person says that. Regardless, but the difference between drama and prose is that drama is written specifically to be enacted on the stage or to be enacted in one way or the other. Dramas mostly occur in acts and scenes that I mentioned earlier, and typical examples include Professor Wole Soyinka's Death and the King's Horseman, which has been adapted, directed by the late B. Bandili, and other forms, including Olarutim's The Gods Are Not to Blame, just wide acclaim, and likewise Judy Dada Sankara. Yes, Judy Dada has many other works of drama he has written, but then these are just a few of them. If we decide to name drama pieces we have come across, the list is very long. We would exhaust the whole of the day. So move on. So the next genre is poetry. According to Britannica, poetry is a form of literature that evokes a concentrated imaginative awareness of experience or a specific emotional response through language chosen and arranged for its meaning, sound, and rhythm. Poetry, as most of us know, poetry comes in lines and stanzas, while contemporary poetry has shifted away from that contemporary or that classical arrangement of poetry where it has to conform to some certain rules. Present day poetry or contemporary poetry in contemporary times, poetry has not been so restrictive and rigid. Poetry has been more of experimental in recent times. So poetry, regardless, is a group of words strung together to evoke a particular emotion. But the thing about poetry is the brevity. Poetry is usually brief. It's not as long as normal prose, or as long as stories, as long as prose generally. But it passes the message it's expected to pass in short lines, in a few stanzas, or as many stanzas as possible. But then you can write a poetry piece that is just about 200 words, but then you can't really write a proper post in 200 words, except if you are writing in micro flash or something. As a poetry conveys a thought, describes a scene, or tells a story in a concentrated lyrical arrangement of words, so mostly appearing in lines and stanzas. Like I mentioned earlier, poetry appears in lines and stanzas, and In recent times, we have had poetry forms like haiku. We have had poetry forms like duplex, according to Jericho Brown. We've had poetry forms like haibun, had poetry forms like tanka, had poetry forms like free verse, yeah, the most common type of poetry. Had poetry forms like end rhymes and others. So works of poetry include Chinua Achebe's Beware So Brother, yeah, Post-Revolution Gas Poems from Prison, Isaac Malik Balaon's No Home in This Land, such as example of works of poetry that have been published by writers of acclaim. This list is just three of them. This is not limited to them. These people have mentioned here, but then poetry is poetry. Everyone writes poetry. Anybody can write poetry. You don't really have to go through school and learn poetry to write it. No, literature is different. Literature is unique in a way that you don't really have to be to have ever been in literature class to take part or communicate with text. So the last genre is prose. So prose is the most misunderstood genre of literature in many ways. So there's no better definition of prose other than every writing piece or every written piece that falls under neither the genre of poetry nor drama, because prose comprises of many crazily experimental forms which are the deal in contemporary times. Yes, like I mentioned in poetry, contemporary prose is very much experimental. You see different kind of prose pieces, prosaic pieces. Every day is a new day. Every day is a new dawn for prose. You always find different kinds of prose, and it's intriguing. We have in recent times we have experimented with prose, delivered it in different ways, as fiction, as non-fiction, as whatever it can be. Prose is the most misunderstood kind of genre of poetry of literature. Sorry, and as it stands, prose is still the most widely explored because every day you write prose. When you write notes in class, you are writing prose, just like it's academic prose, academic form of writing, academic essay or whatever you call it, is prose. Any form of writing, yeah, that does not fall under poetry and does not fall under drama is more. You can just call it prose. So according to Wikipedia, prose is a form of written or spoken language that typically exhibits a natural flow of speech and grammatical structure. Like I mentioned earlier, that any form of writing you undertake or undergo is prose. So prose has laws that guide it. When you write prose, at times you have to obey grammatical laws, obey punctuation laws. These are the laws that govern writing generally, but then prose pays attention to these laws and prose tries to live them. So a related narrative device is the stream of consciousness, which always also flows naturally, but is not concerned with syntax. Yes, unlike poetry, where there's this need to have rhythm, regardless of whether there are rhymes or not. You need to have rhythm. Your poem needs to resonate. However, it's not the same with prose. Prose, you have freedom, but there are certain rules you have to abide by. So creative writing, yes, like I said, creative writing cuts across all three genres of literature, except a portion of prose known as factual or bland non-fiction. Like I mentioned earlier, where I said your notes you copy in class when you write integrated science, you copy from the board. It's prose. However, that kind of prose is what we call bland prose or factual non-fiction, because you're writing what is how do I call it, what is not debatable, something that is not debatable, something that is rigid and it has a particular standard of writing, just like academic writing. Academic writing is for you to follow certain rules and regulations and deliver what you have learned, or regurgitate what you have learned over the years, or what you have studied, or what you have researched on. So it's different from the general creative writing. So in general terms, creative writing is anything writing aside this tiny portion of prose, which is referred to as factual or bland non-fiction. So prose is segmented into two categories, which is fiction and non-fiction. So when we have fiction and non-fiction, um, the what you call the kind of prose is dependent on the veracity of ideas strong up to push a narrative. For example, it depends on how true the narrative you are pushing is. Sometimes, like in sometimes people write prose that are inspired by true events, but doesn't make it non-fiction. It is fiction. As far as you have not written the story the way it is exactly, it's fiction. But when you write it the way it is without adding anything, it is non-fiction. For example, biographies and autobiographies are non-fiction. Or journalistic writing, where you don't have to manipulate anything, quotes are sacred, everything is the way it should be, it's non-fiction. However, when you write a story, even if it's about your experience, where you decide, okay, I do not want to put my name, I want to put someone else's name. I say, okay, yesterday, you are Bayo. You know, say, okay, yesterday Bola went to school. It's no longer your story. It's now fiction. So this is a chart showing the division of prose into fiction and non-fiction. So fiction is any creative work, chiefly any narrative work, portraying people, events, or places in imaginary ways that are not strictly based on history or fact. So in its most narrow usage, fiction applies to written narratives in prose, and often specifically novels as well as novellas. Like we said, fiction is anything that has to do with imagination. Regardless, if what you have written happens to be true, what you have written happens to have happened in a particular time in history, it's fiction as long as it's from your imagination. If it's mythical or it's speculative, regardless of what it is, as far as we have not presented it the way it's existed, or the way it's panned out, or the way the story went down, you're writing fiction. So in contrast, we have non-fiction. And according to Wikipedia, non-fiction is any document or media content that intends in good faith to present only truth and accuracy regarding information, events, or people. Non-fictional content may be presented either objectively or subjectively. Yes, according to this definition, anything that is based on truth is non-fiction. Non-fiction has to be true in all senses. You don't have to manipulate anything. Even okay, for example, in journalistic writing, there are times when you have to how do I put it? You have to give your respondents pseudonyms. For example, so you spoke to a victim of an attack whose name is Femi, and you decide, okay, to protect your victim's identity so he doesn't get harmed, you can say, okay, for this report, let's call this victim Chima or something. So, however, you mentioned in the work that that's not your victim's real name. So, and it is for a particular reason. But regardless, as far as the ideas put together to make up the story or to make up the prose are true, it is non-fiction. But if it contains any atom of manipulation or lies, means it is fiction. Yeah, so we have division of non-fiction. Non-fiction can be divided, or fiction. Non-fiction can be divided into four broad groups. It could be descriptive, it could be expository, it could be narrative, and it could be persuasive. From the names, can already have an idea of what these types of non-fiction are talking about. For example, descriptive non-fiction is where you describe, like from the word describe, because descriptive is an inflected form of describe. Same goes for expository. You are exposing things, things that are true, but you want to expose it for people to understand, people to grasp. It's expository. We have the narrative where you are telling a story, however, it is true. For example, biography or autobiographies, they are narrative. And when you are writing your biography, that's an autobiography by yourself, you put it down the way it happened, but you narrate it in a story in a way that's captivating, where your audience enjoys the story or flows along with the story. Same goes for persuasive. Persuasive is when you have a particular viewpoint, or like we use in journalism, we say opinion piece. So opinion pieces happen to be just where you have a particular viewpoint and you want to sell your viewpoint to others. For example, um, you believe Thursdays should be beginning of the weekend. So for if you want to write an opinion piece that argues in favor of Thursday being the first day of the weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are days of the weekend, or are referred to as the weekend. So you write it, say your viewpoints in a way that anybody that reads it will begin to consider making Thursday the very first day of the weekend. Or I don't know how to put it. I believe you would understand what I'm saying. So that's just the way it is. It's persuasive. You want to sell your viewpoint, ensure that people understand what you're saying, ensure that they agree with you. So you make it as convincing as possible. And yeah, this way we draw the curtain would delve into these forms of creative non-fiction in the very next video. Thank you very much and bye.